Hello and welcome to Pigeon Duiwe News. My name is Tato Sehon and today we are at the lofts of Frans Herbst in Boksburg. And in the few moments we'll have an interview with him. We'll get to know about his racing career. We'll get to know about his bloodlines, the ones he has in his loft, and his performances throughout the years. And this year, to be specific. Mr. Frans Herbst, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for doing all the work to come out here.
Thanks a lot. And for people who want to know a bit more about Mr. Frans Herbst, can you just give us a bit of your background?
Yes, I've been busy with pigeons since I can remember. I was about 5 years old when I had my first pigeons. And all my life I have got pigeons. It's not always racing pigeons, but I had pigeons. And in 1980 in Secunda, I was working there at the mines, at Secunda Mines, and I met a person there, Sidney Tyler from Sasolburg. He was transferred to Secunda. And I got racing pigeons from him, and since then I'm busy with the racing pigeons and trying to compete in the sport.
And so he was your mentor?
Not really. He wasn't my mentor. There was a guy living there in Trigard, which is about 5 to 6 km from where I was staying. Who, he passed on already, but Mkoos Botha. And he was the champion of the Eastern Transvaal Union there. And actually he was my mentor. He helped me quite a lot and teach me about racing pigeons and so on.
And now, since you got them to teach you about pigeons and so forth, what is your proudest moment or your ultimate achievement since you started racing?
Yeah, there's a couple of them. If I went back in my career, I had a bird there in Secunda, and it was about 1986, 87, when it snowed in Secunda. And we had a race that day from Victoria West, and I had a small little henny. She was just allowed a very, very small bird. And that time the TV wasn't on yet. We had that pattern screen on the TV. I will never forget that. And I was sitting watching that morning at 6 o'clock waiting for my pigeons to come, and we had the overnight. And it was cold, cold, cold. And all of a sudden, there the pigeon is. And she was so frozen, she couldn't bring her legs out to sit. She fell on the landing board. And I ran out, still had the hand clock, and I clocked her. I took her in a towel and I wrapped her up, and I bring her into the home and I warm her up. And I won the union that day by 20 minutes, and I won the club by 2 hours. Which was I think was quite a great pigeon.
Well, no, that's a special pigeon. Can you tell us more about how was it bred?
I don't know. It was a stray pigeon coming to me. I got it as a stray pigeon. It was all swollen up here. It hit a wire. And it had a big sore here, and I treated it, and then I started to race it. And after that I went and do some inquiries of whose bird it is. And it was a bloke in Verenigingsbird. And I went and I see him, and I told him about the bird, and he said, well, good luck, keep it, and hope it will bring you a lot of luck. So yeah, that was one of my great moments. And then another great moment of mine was last year with our derby. I was sitting here waiting for the pigeons, and all of a sudden there's 4 pigeons here. And I got them down, and I ran and I chased them in. And before I turned around, there was another 4. And I chased them in again. And I got the first 5 pigeons in the club. And then another bloke was 6, and I was 7 and 8 again. And I took the first 3 positions in the union on the derby, which is was quite a hell of an achievement for me. Yeah, I'm quite proud of that race. Yes.
And speaking about achievements, what's your objectives for this year, like 2021?
Right, as I said, out of 120 members in the union last year, I've ended up being 5th. Now, this year we're 98 members in the union, and if I can do a bit better than that at the end of the year, I will be quite satisfied. But if I can equal that, that will be good for me.
And who will be the big surprise for you? I mean, in your club this year, who are you looking at? That will be a big surprise.
Yes, I've changed clubs this year. I'm flying with Benoni Club this year because of certain conditions and so on. And it's quite a strong club. We're 19 members, and the first seven of the first 10 in the union is members of the Benoni Club. So it's quite a big competition that we are flying in this year. And if I can do well there, I will be quite satisfied. And then yeah, there's a couple of people that are flying well at this stage. I think Mornay from Whitfield will be a big surprise, and he's doing quite well every year, but he haven't won the union points so far. So I think if he can win the union points, that will be quite a big surprise for me. Yeah.
Okay. And if now suddenly you are now in charge of pigeon racing sport in South Africa, executive board, what changes would you come with?
That's quite a difficult question, because I know there's a lot of animosity among members of the SAN of SAMPU, because they feel that SAMPU is not doing enough for the pigeon sport in such. I think one thing that I would rather or like to see changed is all these small clubs, groups of people in all over the unions. If anybody is not if I'm not satisfied with you, I go away and I make my own club. I think that must stop. It's making the sport more expensive. Everybody must pay more for a couple of people that is not satisfied. That is one thing some people must look at and say, if you're in that area, there's a club, go and join it. If you don't want to join it, stop racing the pigeons. And I think that is one thing that I would really look at and say. And then another thing is combined basketing. Stop this up and running with the trucks. Get one combined basketing for, let's say, Boksburg, Benoni, Whitfield, this division. We've got one club. You can still have different results for each club, different results for each district, but get together and basket at one place. It will cut the cost in half.
And as you've been giving your inputs about all of those, and what are your maybe your biggest mistake that you've done in the whole of your racing career?
Biggest mistake?
Biggest mistake. The one that costed you,
the biggest
big race.
Yeah. I wouldn't say a big race, but definitely cost me a season or two or three. Is when I was trying to be fancy and building a fancy loft for the racing pigeons. Eventually it ended up that since I went to that loft and raced out of that loft, and I broke down the old loft, which I did quite good in, the pigeons didn't perform, and I couldn't figure out why. And I've changed and changed and changed, but the pigeons doesn't perform. And I got new pigeons and they're still not performing. Then eventually it struck me that the loft is too hot. They're drinking a lot of water and they're not eating as much, so they haven't got the energy to fly the distances. And that is what was for a couple of seasons. Took me a couple of seasons to figure that out. And then I stopped and I built this loft here, and I changed that to a breeding loft, and I built this loft. And since I've been for the last 3 years in this loft, my results are quite different, yeah.
And talking about results, the pairs you have here, the families, the bloodlines you have in your loft?
Yeah, it was about 4 years ago, I decided that I can't carry on like this, and I took a lot of money that I saved up, and I went and I bought me some kaasboer by Gerard in Krugersdorp, Gerard van Aswegen. He had a lot of imported birds, and at that stage he stopped for the racing. And I went there and I bought a couple of pairs there by him, and then I also got a couple of pairs from our previous union winner, Piet Hartman, Tom Locks from him. And I crossed those pigeons, and afterwards I've got some very nice birds from Billy Kitchenbrand, which also blended in very nice with my kaasboer and Tom Locks. They're crossing very well, and that is basically where I got my success from now.
And how do you prepare these birds? I mean, those are good bloodlines. How do you prepare them for the races, the short distance, the middle and the long?
I think, to be honest with you, I think 80% of the pigeon fanciers in South Africa, the biggest problem that they think that they've got is the off-season. You know, when you're racing pigeons, there's no such thing as an off-season. Pigeon sport is 365 days a year. And if you can keep your birds healthy in the off-season, it's not difficult to get the results in the season. And that is where I think most people, when it's going wrong, is when the pigeons got the off-season, they also got the off-season. And I think that is the biggest problem.
And now, what's your ultimate advice that you'd give out to the fanciers starting and those who've been racing for a long time?
For the people starting, go to your champion or to somebody that is flying well, and get some quality pigeons. Yes, you won't get them for nothing. It's going to cost you a couple of rand. But if you want to succeed in this sport these days, you must be able to be willing to buy pigeons. Pigeons are expensive. You can't expect people to give it for you for nothing. It costs a lot of money to maintain them. It costs a lot of money to obtain them. And go to a person like that and get some of the best that you can have. And then another advice is start with babies. Go to the champion and tell him, listen, sell me 20 babies, sell me 30 babies or 50 babies. Start with that. And train them and take the best out of them and breed with them. And that's how you will build your stock for the future.
Right, thanks. And do you have any closing remarks?
Thank you for being here today. I really appreciate it. I never expected it, but I'm glad that you're here, and all the best for your people in the future.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Frans Herbst.
Pleasure.
To you watching, thanks a lot for watching our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. My name is Pigeon Duiwe and this is Pigeon Duiwe News.